James Harden cooks the Raptors. They can't score in the clutch. Great Jamal game, though. Let's go to the film room.
The only thing that's originally filmed is that I've studied older films and tried to figure out how I got that impression. I was getting knees right in the cutting room.
The unique thing about film is an art form
exactly.
is the editing.
All right, folks, the Raptors were outscored 20-8 in the final 8 minutes and 35 seconds of this game, including overtime. They shot 3 of 14 from the field, and those 8 points came all from Scotty Barnes in that overtime. They struggled offensively, and defensively, they just could not contain James Harden, who dissected them in the fourth and OT. Let's talk about it. All right, so it was 109 to 101 with 3:30 left. The Raptors scored 8 points the rest of the way. How did they do it? They couldn't contain James Harden on the defensive side of the ball either. So as you see here, James Harden is hunting out Brandon Ingram on the defensive end. He's setting a screen here so that if the Raptors switch this action, Ingram picks him up. But if that doesn't happen and Scotty Barnes has to fight through this screen, Ingram is not going to be able to step up here because he's prepared to switch. And so, boom, Harden gets all the way downhill with an easy opportunity. And offensively, the Raptors relied a lot on Brandon Ingram bailing them out with tough shots. And the Clippers defense basically dared anybody else to beat them other than BI. So as you see here, multiple bodies and a great contest by Chris Dunn. You know, BI's playmaking options are truthfully a little limited. That being said, it could have been a cross-court pass, if you will, to Jamal Shed, who has had an excellent playmaking game, can kind of get downhill and make decisions. But again, the spacing here, not the best from the Raptors, and BI is forced into a tough contested shot. On the other side of the ball, now it's Ochai Agbaji who's getting attacked by James Harden. Harden just goes all the way to the basket and finishes no problem. All right, so more Brandon Ingram here in clutch time offense, and this is a pin down into a dribble handoff, which is a Chicago action. A very typical action to get Brandon Ingram curling to the basket. So as we see here, what BI wants to do is get to this side of the floor, settle into a mid-range jump shot. And at the same time, Scotty and Shed will run a little action here as well to get an opportunity for Jamal Shed. That being said, as you see, limited playmaking windows for Brandon Ingram here, but he has to seize the opportunity a little bit quicker and make these reads faster. As you see here, Jamal Shed available with James Harden's back turned towards him, Ochai Agbaji on the weak side corner. There are ways to manipulate this help defender to be able to either get Ochai a good look or CMB a good look here. But just a little bit slow to make this read, picks up his dribble, and now they have 3 guys on the ball and a tough pass to Jamal Shed, who has to chuck up a shot here. And so somehow the Raptors get an offensive rebound on the same possession, 9 seconds left. Now, I want you to take note of how long it takes BI to set this up, or for the Raptors in general to set up this action. BI doesn't go until there's 5 seconds left on the clock. Just a little bit of it's you need to be quicker with your actions here, especially in the clutch. That's why you see some stagnation. Clippers force a turnover. Now more Harden one-on-one against Ochai Agbaji. They run a pick and roll, targeting Brandon Ingram once again. They don't concede the switch there. And now it's Harden versus Ochai. Again, Ochai doesn't get his hand, or gets his hand in the cookie jar, forces the foul call. So now we're all tied up, man. In about 2 minutes, we're all tied up, and Brandon Ingram gets the ball. They flow into a pick and roll. Ingram sees multiple bodies, right? A sea of Clippers defenders. This is an opportunity once again for him to make a play, right? For Jamal Shed or for Ochai Agbaji in the corner or Scotty Barnes in this corner, just to get something going here, just to create an opportunity. That's what he does. Ochai does exactly that, gets downhill, and drives but isn't able to finish. Now, this is why I say it's a thankless kind of thing for Brandon Ingram because he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, right? If BI were to settle into a tough mid-range jump shot here, we'd be talking about why doesn't Brandon Ingram pass the ball. But BI passes this ball in this situation, and it's because the other guys around him offensively, outside of Scotty Barnes and Jamal Shed being able to make some decisions here and there, and that was about it, man. That was about it for the Toronto Raptors as James Harden absolutely carved them up. It was, I've seen Harden do this a million times to a million different teams where he will just cook teams in pick and roll situations. He's such a savant as a decision maker. And so it's picking your poison against him because he's obviously so good at drawing free throws. He's obviously very good at getting into that middle of the floor area and being a decision maker. Naturally a good three-point shooter. And paired with Zubats, who is a very good screener, the pick and roll game between those two was really tough to stop, especially because the Raptors lack size tonight in Jakob Poeltl. And so we saw Zubats draw so much rim gravity and rolling gravity. And we saw Harden be able to really get downhill in one-on-one situations. And the Raptors just struggled to defend that, especially in the fourth quarter. But the issue, obviously the issue for the Raptors was offensively. And once again, I thought their decision-making tonight was a step slow would be the way to describe it. The Raptors had 18 turnovers tonight, which is pretty uncharacteristic for them. Obviously 30 assists, which is always good, but that assist to turnover ratio isn't regular for them as a team. The Raptors needed to take better care of the ball. Brandon Ingram with 5 turnovers tonight, Scotty Barnes with 3 turnovers tonight, Jamal Shed with 3 turnovers tonight, Colin Murray-Boyles with 3 turnovers tonight. What allowed the Clippers to stay in this game was the turnovers. It was the fact that, let's see what their possession was. So the Raptors actually ended up taking more shots than the Clippers, 87-79. But that's probably because of the offensive rebounding. Yeah, the Raptors won the offensive rebounding battle by 6. Overall, though, you could see that the turnovers allowed the Clippers to stay in this game every time. And the Raptors had multiple 10-plus point leads throughout this game. But every time the Raptors were trying to extend that lead, it was turnovers, it was poor decision-making that made it so that the Clippers got back in this game. Truthfully, a very winnable game for the Toronto Raptors tonight. Very, very winnable. Obviously, no Kawhi Leonard for the LA Clippers, and so they were missing a massive scoring boost from them. And from the Raptors side, yes, no Jakob Poeltl, no RJ Barrett, no Emmanuel Quickley, missing 3 starters. Colin Murray-Boyles jumps back into the lineup. Ochai Agbaji in the starting lineup. He had a good game tonight. Jamal Shed as well, starting lineup. So there were moments in time where this felt like a comfortable win for the Raptors, especially when in that second quarter they were able to extend their lead once again. Shed was having a great playmaking night, and we'll get into Jamal and some of the good things he does in a little bit. In the third quarter, it was Mamu and Grady Dick really providing life for this Raptors offense. The Raptors offense in general just felt like it was struggling to get quality looks all night. Now, part of that is because I think the Clippers are a pretty good defensive team. I've talked about the athleticism advantage and disadvantage versus certain matchups, right? You see it against the Pacers. And in the Pacers, the Raptors enjoyed their athletic advantage. Scotty Barnes particularly enjoyed his athletic advantage. Tonight against the Clippers, they did not have that athletic advantage. Obviously, Zubats and Brook Lopez being these 2 towering 7-footers provides a baseline of rim protection for those teams. But then you look on the wings and it's Chris Dunn, who's a very talented defender, and Kobe Sanders, who is decent athletically. And they had, Cam Christie, who ended up logging 20 minutes, and Jordan Miller, who ended up logging 45 minutes in this game. He was incredible. But overall, they just have these wing guys who are long, little switchable, provide good defense in the gaps. And so we saw those gaps evaporate for the Toronto Raptors in the fourth quarter and overtime, especially when Brandon Ingram was trying to make decisions. And I do think the Raptors offense in general, and this has been a trend over the last couple months, in the clutch, their offense becomes way too predictable. it's obvious that every single time they're going to go to Brandon Ingram, and that Brandon Ingram has to shoulder the load as a creator, as a mid-range scorer. He basically has to do everything. And I admit that missing three starters really hurts in that aspect, because so much of what the Raptors were good at to start the season was, okay, boom, RJ is able to make this weak side cut, find himself cutting to the basket, and that's a good look. Or IQ catch and shoot jumpers, or Scotty Barnes in the dunker spot. And of course, we haven't seen Jakob Poeltl for a while, but there are moments where Jakob's screening ability with BI, with IQ, really helps alleviate some of the pressure off of Ingram as a scorer. This is obviously just like this is the hand they're dealt at this point when it comes to injuries. It's really tough. It's a tough scenario. And so there's a lot of pressure on Brandon Ingram to be the primary shot creator and decision maker for the Raptors in the clutch. I do think it would benefit them to be healthier, but at the same time, maybe try to kickstart this egalitarian offense. You could see that Darko Rajakovic was doing a lot of offense-defense substitutions in this game, and that was because, if it was Mamu on the court, he was getting targeted by Zubac and Harden. But if it was CMB on the court, they could switch those actions. It was a little bit easier. You could live with the opportunities a little bit more. If it was Grady Dick on the floor, then of course they were trying to hunt out Grady Dick, but then offensively, Grady provided a really good punch tonight. This was back-to-back double-digit games for him. It's the third time this season where he knocked down 3 threes. Coming off of a very good game against the Pacers, you hope that this trend continues and he's sort of regressing back to the level of shooter that we know he's capable at. Grady is well below what kind of shooting he's been capable at, even in the first couple of years of his career. I believe coming into this game, or maybe before the Pacers game, he was shooting 29% from three. That's well below what he's capable of. So hopefully he is regressing back to the norm. It's a good sign that he's doing that. Ochai Agbaji also 3 threes in this one, 15 points, subbed in and started for the Raptors. I thought he provided a good punch. Overall, the Raptors got pretty decent contributions off of the bench. They had 7 players scoring double figures, but when the going got tough, they leaned so much on Brandon Ingram, and unfortunately the rest of the guys just weren't able to hit their shots. I do want to talk about the good part of this game, which was Jamal Shed. Jamal had a career high 13 assists tonight, 15 points. He was very, very good at setting the table for the Raptors in the moments where they actually look good in this game. So let's talk about Jamal and his playmaking ability. As I've mentioned a bunch of times, the connection between Shed and Mamu in the pick and roll is really potent because he can get downhill, and Mamu has this sort of like, he has to force defenders to make a decision whether he's going to pop to the basket or roll and make a play in the short roll area. And so Shed uses this to advantage. And a good job of Elijah Martin shaking above the break to create a little bit more spacing. Martin knocks down the 3. That's what I'm talking about. Quick twitch decision making. So there are just moments in time where you want your guard to be able to make quick plays, right? And you see this opportunity to CMB here as the defense lapses. A beautiful touch pass from Shed to CMB, and he gives the hockey assist to Ochai Agbaji. Shed is a screen reject merchant. He loves it, so he uses the fact the defender is waiting for a screen to come to just reject it, get downhill. Again, him and Mamu work, man. So Shed, what he's trying to do is he's trying to engage Zubac to defend him. So they run multiple dribble handoffs. Then this pick and roll gets Zubac to step up on him. Mamu just rolls to the basket and then finishes. Again, patience from Jamal Shed. Really good decision making. So here he again is trying to engage Zubac as the roll man defender. So here forces Zubac to step up, and now he knows he can be patient enough to find the rolling CMB. So watch as he fakes this jump shot, gets Zubac off his spot, finds CMB, and finishes. Nice ball reversal by Brandon Ingram here. So Raptors run a pick and roll. He engages the help, and now Shed gets the ball reversal, finds CMB for the roll. Redirect, right? That's beautiful. A very, very good game from Jamal Shed. Overall, This was a very winnable basketball game for the Raptors. A very, very winnable basketball game for the Raptors. And now they head into a 5-game West Coast road trip. All of these games are going to be late night games. Lakers at 9:30, Warriors at 10, Kings at 10, Blazers at 10, and then they got the Thunder at 7 p.m. That's a Central Time game anyways. But regardless, like, now you're heading into a pretty decent stretch. This was a very winnable game, especially with Kawhi Leonard out. Hopefully the Raptors get healthy. It doesn't seem like Jakob Poeltl is close, truthfully, based on the reporting that we've heard, and it might take a little bit longer for him to get back on the floor. It feels like Emmanuel quickly. I truthfully don't know how big this back flare-up is for him. We'll see if he ends up playing at some point soon for the Raptors. And obviously with RJ Barrett, the ankle stuff, it's sort of like it just depends on how quickly he can get back onto the court. Very tough time for the Raptors to be dealing with these injuries because, once again, very winnable games here, an opportunity to close out against the Clippers, and they do not do that partially because, man, they're missing some offensive punch in a big way. And while I thought their bench stepped up and their depth did what it could, ultimately, it wasn't enough to get it done against the Clippers team. Folks, as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do the things that you guys usually do. We appreciate you tapping into Raptors Republic. We'll see you on Sunday for the Lakers, man. Peace.